The princess gave a human the throne, and chaos followed. Below, the streets bustled with aliens of every shape and size, their skin shimmering in colors that no human could ever name. Ships glided through the air with quiet precision, leaving trails of faint blue light behind them. Zyphora was a world of beauty, order, and centuries of tradition, where the royal family had ruled with careful guidance for generations. Yet even in this land of perfection, a sense of restlessness hung in the air, almost like a storm waiting to break. Princess Lyra walked along the balcony of the royal palace, her long robes brushing against the polished floor. She stared out over the city, thinking about the council meeting she had just left. The elders of Zyphora's ruling council had been arguing again, as they always did. Each wanted to preserve their traditions to make sure nothing ever changed. Lyra had listened quietly at first, trying to stay patient, but now frustration gnawed at her. The council was wise in many ways, but their minds were closed to anything new. She wondered if her people would ever accept change. A soft chime echoed through the palace halls. Lyra turned toward the source and saw a young human man standing there, his posture straight but his expression curious. Ethan, the human ambassador from Earth, had been visiting Zyphora for several months. Unlike the alien nobles who never questioned anything, Ethan seemed to see the world differently. He noticed details that others ignored, and he spoke in ways that were simple, clear, and honest. The princess found it refreshing, though she also knew it was risky. Humans were fragile by Zyphora standards. They lacked the strength and speed of her people. Yet somehow this human had a presence that made her think. "Your Highness," Ethan said politely, bowing slightly, "I hope I am not interrupting." "You're not," Lyra replied, smiling faintly. "I was just thinking." She gestured toward the city. "I wonder if my people are ready to change." Ethan tilted his head, studying her carefully. "Change is always difficult," he said, "but sometimes the right choice is the one no one expects." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Do humans have a saying like that on Earth?" Ethan chuckled softly. "We do. The smallest step can make the biggest difference." Lyra found herself reflecting on those words. She had been trying to find a solution to the council's stubbornness for years. Every proposal she made was met with endless debate, every suggestion questioned as if it were dangerous. Her people feared mistakes, and the elders feared new ideas. But what if the solution did not lie within Zyphora? What if an outsider, someone who did not share the same assumptions, could see a path forward? The thought grew stronger in her mind, almost daring her to speak it aloud. She looked at Ethan and felt a strange surge of courage. "What would you do," she asked carefully, "if you were given the chance to lead a world you did not belong to?" Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "Lead," he repeated. "That is a huge responsibility." Lyra nodded. "It is. And my people, my council, will never accept a human as their ruler. But what if they had no choice?" Ethan swallowed, trying to process her words. "You mean you want me to rule Zyphora?" Lyra hesitated. The idea was radical, almost unthinkable. Yet something inside her insisted it was the right thing to do. "I do," she said finally. "I want you to help me lead. I want you to show my people that a new perspective can be valuable, that strength is not always measured in speed or power, but in thinking, in empathy, in courage." Ethan opened his mouth, but words failed him. He had studied alien politics and culture, but never had he imagined being offered the chance to lead an entire civilization. His heart raced, not just with fear, but with excitement. He looked at Lyra, and in her eyes he saw the same determination that burned in him. I don't know if I am ready," he said finally. "No one is ever ready," Lyra replied softly, "but sometimes the right moment comes whether we are ready or not." That evening the council gathered in the grand hall, their faces etched with confusion and anger. Lyra stood before them, her voice calm but firm. "I have made a decision," she began. "Ethan, the human ambassador, will take the role of acting ruler until we find a new solution. He brings knowledge, creativity, and a perspective we lack. I trust him, and I believe you will too if you give him a chance." The council erupted into murmurs, some whispers of outrage, some of disbelief. Elder Corvin, a tall alien with silver scales and piercing eyes, banged his staff on the floor. "Your Highness, this is madness," he exclaimed. "A human cannot rule Zyphora. They are too fragile, too unpredictable. The people will never accept it." Lyra met his gaze steadily. "Perhaps," she said. "Or perhaps they will. We cannot know unless we try. I am willing to risk the unknown if it means a chance for progress." The hall fell silent. Some council members stared at her in shock, others exchanged worried glances. Ethan stood at her side, feeling the weight of every eye on him. He could sense the doubt and fear radiating from the elders. They were powerful and they were resistant to change. Yet something about their fear seemed manageable. He took a deep breath. "I will do my best," he said simply. "I cannot promise perfection, but I can promise honesty, effort, and fairness. That is all I can give, and it is all any ruler can give, human or alien." Lyra smiled faintly. "That is enough." The following days were filled with tension and scrutiny. Ethan had to learn the intricacies of Zyphora's technology, laws, and traditions at a pace that would have overwhelmed any human. He studied the energy grid, the transport systems, and the council's procedures. He asked questions that seemed obvious to him but shocking to the council, and his ideas were unconventional. Yet some of them worked. His suggestion to optimize the city's energy distribution using a method he had observed on Earth reduced waste significantly. His approach to mediating disputes, focusing on understanding emotions rather than strict protocol, helped resolve tensions in several districts. Slowly, some citizens began to notice. Not everyone was pleased. Outside the palace, whispers grew into open protests. Some aliens carried banners declaring, "Humans are not fit to rule," while others simply stayed home, fearful of what change might bring. Lyra watched the unrest carefully, knowing that her people's trust could not be won overnight. Yet she felt a strange hope in her heart. She had chosen a human, a being untested and fragile by Zyphoran standards, to challenge their assumptions. If he succeeded, it could change everything. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Lyra and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool and fragrant with alien flowers, their petals glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Do you ever feel afraid?" Lyra asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Ethan shook his head slowly. "I feel aware. Afraid is a strong word. I know the risks, but I also know that fear cannot guide me. I have to try or nothing will change." Lyra nodded. "You are stronger than I expected," she said. "Not in the way my people think of strength, but in the way that matters most inside." Ethan smiled faintly. "I have to be. There is no other choice." The next day brought chaos. A transport hub malfunctioned, leaving thousands of citizens stranded. The council accused Ethan of negligence, but he quickly analyzed the system and found a simple fix. Within hours, the grid was restored, and citizens could move freely again. Small victories like these built confidence among some of the people, though the extremists continued to spread fear. Lyra observed Ethan with pride. He was human, fragile in appearance, yet capable of brilliance. His mind worked differently, without centuries of rigid training. He questioned assumptions, saw opportunities where others saw obstacles, and most importantly, he cared. As Part 1 drew to a close, the city was on edge. The council grumbled, extremists plotted, and citizens debated. Yet there was also a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, a human could lead Zyphora into a new era. Lyra stood on the balcony once more, watching the twin moons reflect off the crystal towers. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, and chaos was certain to follow. But for the first time in centuries, she felt that change was not just possible, it was inevitable. And so the princess had made her choice, a choice that would shake her world to its foundations. The question now was whether her people and her human ruler could survive the storm that was coming. The city of Zyphora was changing, and not everyone liked it. After Ethan had taken the role of acting ruler, life in the capital had become tense. Citizens whispered in crowded markets, nobles muttered behind closed doors, and even some palace staff looked at the human with suspicion. Yet amidst this unrest, a strange energy filled the streets. For the first time in decades, people debated openly about their future, about what was right and what was possible. They argued, yes, but the conversation itself was new. Ethan sat in the royal council chamber, staring at the holographic map of Zyphora's energy network. Alien symbols and intricate designs flickered across the display. To the council members, it looked complex beyond comprehension. To Ethan, it was a puzzle waiting to be solved. "Your Highness," Elder Corvin said, his voice sharp, "I do not understand why you insist on altering the energy distribution system. Our methods have worked for centuries. Why risk it?" Ethan looked at him calmly. "Because it works, yes, but only for the way things used to be. Our cities have grown, our population has grown, and we waste too much energy in the old ways. I have an idea that can reduce loss by 20% if we implement it carefully. A murmur ran through the council. 20%. That was not a small number. Even Corvin's scaled hands twitched, as if resisting the urge to admit it. You propose this without full testing? Corvin asked, his voice tense. I propose starting small, Ethan said. One district, observe the results, then expand. Lyra watched from the side, quietly impressed. The council bristled at the human's confidence, but she could see that his reasoning had merit. For all their power and intelligence, the elders were trapped by habit. Ethan, fragile by appearance, was not trapped at all. In the following days, Ethan began implementing his ideas. He worked closely with engineers, technicians, and even curious citizens willing to learn. The first test district had its energy system recalibrated, and within hours, efficiency improved. Streetlights flickered less, transportation grids moved more smoothly, and even water distribution stabilized. The city noticed. People stopped complaining in the streets. Some began to smile. Word spread quickly. The human was making a difference. Yet the extremists did not vanish. They saw the improvement not as a triumph, but as a threat. In hidden chambers, masked leaders whispered plans to destabilize the human's rule. One morning, a loud explosion rocked the central transport hub. Ships stalled in midair, causing panic in the city below. Citizens ran in fear, screaming as automated systems attempted to regain control. Ethan was already on the move, analyzing the problem. The explosion had damaged the main energy conduit which powered much of the transport network. Elder Corvin and other council members pointed fingers immediately. "This is your fault," they shouted. "A human cannot understand Zyphora. The city is falling apart because of your interference." Ethan ignored the accusations and focused on the problem. He studied the damage carefully, checking sensors, consulting technicians, and drawing on his knowledge of human engineering. He noticed a pattern. The conduit's failure was not random. It had been sabotaged. Someone wanted the city to panic, to make the human ruler look incompetent. Lyra arrived at the hub, her robes fluttering as she moved quickly through the chaos. She looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with a mix of worry and determination. "What do we do?" she asked. Ethan pointed toward the damaged conduit. "We reroute the energy. It will take time, but if we work together, we can stabilize the network before more ships fail." Technicians and palace guards moved under his direction, following his clear and simple instructions. Even citizens who were nearby began helping, guided by the human's calm confidence. Slowly, the transport systems came back online. The explosion's panic subsided, replaced by relief and admiration for the human who had solved the crisis. Yet Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The extremists would not stop here. If they were willing to sabotage infrastructure, they might try other, more dangerous tactics. He needed to anticipate their moves to be ready for the next challenge. In the following weeks, tension grew. Alien nobles continued to plot in secret, spreading rumors and attempting to undermine Ethan's decisions. Citizens were divided. Some saw him as a hero, others as a dangerous outsider. Meanwhile, Ethan focused on building bridges. He invited council members, technicians, and community leaders to discuss problems openly, encouraging them to share ideas rather than compete for power. One afternoon, he visited a district that had been particularly resistant to change. The streets were crowded with vendors and children, and the air smelled of exotic fruits and spices. People paused as he walked through, some whispering, some simply staring. Ethan smiled and greeted them warmly, listening to complaints and offering solutions. He noticed that a local school's energy supply was unstable, causing disruptions for the students. "We can fix this," he said simply. "But I need your help. If you show me what works and what doesn't, we can make it better together." The citizens were skeptical, but they agreed to assist. Slowly, the school's energy problems were resolved. Students could study without interruption, and the community began to trust the human ruler more. It was a small victory, but it mattered. Meanwhile, Lyra watched Ethan closely. She admired his patience, his humility, and his ability to listen. For all his lack of alien strength or speed, he had something far more important, the ability to see people as they were, to understand their fears and hopes. She realized that his leadership was changing the city, not through power or force, but through connection. Yet not everyone was impressed. Elder Corvin and the extremists grew more determined. They began spreading misinformation, claiming that Ethan's human logic was dangerous, that it could never truly understand Zyphora's needs. Their whispers reached citizens in the outer districts, fueling anxiety and distrust. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Ethan and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. The streets below were quiet, but a sense of tension lingered in the air. "They will not give up," Lyra said softly. "They fear change more than they fear failure." Ethan nodded. "Change is always scary," he said, "but fear alone cannot guide a civilization. People need hope, solutions, and someone willing to act. That is what we give them." Lyra smiled faintly. "You are teaching my people to see beyond fear." That is more than any ruler has done in centuries. The following days brought new challenges. A sudden storm disrupted energy transmission across multiple districts. Citizens panicked as transport ships stalled, and emergency systems struggled to maintain order. Ethan coordinated a response, combining Zyphoran technology with human strategies. He worked tirelessly, moving from district to district, ensuring safety and minimizing disruption. His efforts did not go unnoticed. Some council members, once skeptical, began to observe his methods with curiosity rather than suspicion. Citizens who had doubted him now whispered praise for his leadership. Even Elder Corvin could not deny that the human had saved the city multiple times. Yet the extremists remained in the shadows, plotting their next move. One day, Ethan received a message from an unknown source. The note was simple but chilling. "You are not welcome here. Leave or chaos will consume your city." He showed the note to Lyra, who frowned. "They are bold," she said, "and dangerous. We must be cautious." Ethan considered the warning carefully. "Caution is necessary, yes," he said, "but fear cannot dictate our actions. If we give up now, we lose more than the city. We lose trust, hope, and the chance to show that humans can lead." Lyra nodded. "Then we move forward together." Ethan spent the next week strengthening alliances. He met with community leaders, listened to citizen concerns, and implemented solutions that were both practical and fair. Slowly, a new rhythm emerged in the city. People began to see the human ruler not as an outsider, but as someone willing to work for their well-being. Yet the extremists did not remain idle. One night, they attempted to hack the city's communication network, spreading false messages and creating panic. Citizens received warnings of fake disasters, causing chaos in multiple districts. Ethan, however, anticipated such moves. His team had prepared backups and emergency protocols, allowing them to quickly identify the source of the disruption and restore order. When the city returned to calm, Lyra approached him. "You are doing what many thought impossible," she said quietly. "You are not just leading, they are starting to follow." Ethan shook his head. "They follow when they see results, not because of my title. Leadership is earned and the work is never done. Chaos is always waiting. But every time we solve a problem, every time we restore trust, we make it a little easier for the next challenge." As Part 2 drew to a close, the city of Zyphora stood at a crossroads. Citizens were learning to accept the human ruler, inspired by his courage, ingenuity, and empathy. Some council members were beginning to change their views, while extremists lurked in the shadows, planning their next move. Ethan had proven that humans could bring new ideas and hope to an alien world. Yet he also knew that the real test had only just begun. Challenges would grow greater, the city would face more danger, and the line between trust and fear would be tested. Still, as he looked out over the city from the palace balcony, the twin moons reflecting in his eyes, he felt a quiet confidence. Humans were fragile, yes, but their minds could adapt, create, and inspire. And in that strength, fragile though it seemed, lay the hope of Zyphora's future. The storm of chaos had begun, but for the first time there was also a chance for unity. The city of Zyphora had changed since Ethan had taken control, but not everyone had accepted him. While many citizens began to see hope in his leadership, others clung to fear and resentment. In the shadowy corners of the capital, extremists gathered, whispering plans to overthrow the human ruler. Their anger grew daily, fed by old traditions, rumors, and distrust of outsiders. They saw Ethan as a symbol of chaos, and in their minds, chaos had to be destroyed. Ethan, however, did not retreat. He spent each day moving through the city, observing, learning, and listening. He visited neighborhoods, listened to citizens' complaints, and watched the flow of energy through the transport and power systems. He noticed that fear often spread faster than facts, and that misunderstandings could grow into panic if left unchecked. He knew he had to act before the extremists' influence became too strong. One morning, a messenger arrived at the palace with troubling news. A group of extremists had gathered near one of the city's main energy hubs. They were blocking workers from entering, threatening violence if the human ruler did not leave. Citizens nearby were frightened, unsure whether to help or flee. Ethan studied the situation carefully, thinking through every possible outcome. He could respond with force, as some advisors suggested, but that risked escalating violence and hurting innocent people. He needed another approach. He turned to Lyra. "We cannot fight them directly," he said. "We need to show them they have a choice, that their anger does not have to destroy the city." Lyra nodded. "Do you have a plan?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Yes, but it will require trust." He went to the blocked hub with a small group of trusted aides, moving slowly and deliberately to avoid alarming the extremists. When he arrived, he spoke loudly and clearly so all could hear. "I understand your anger," he said. "You feel that your way of life is being threatened, and I hear you, but I am here not to destroy your world but to protect it. We need your help to keep the city safe." The extremists were taken aback. Most of their lives, they had only known leaders who demanded obedience or punished dissent. This human spoke differently, calmly, directly, without threats. Some of the younger extremists hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Ethan continued. "If we work together, we can fix the problems, strengthen the city, and keep your traditions alive while still improving life for everyone. But if we fight each other, we all lose." Slowly, a few extremists stepped aside, allowing workers to resume repairs. Others remained silent, unsure what to do. The standoff ended without violence, a small but meaningful victory. Back at the palace, Lyra watched Ethan closely. She realized that he was not only using his mind, but also his human empathy to solve problems. He understood that people feared change, and he addressed that fear directly instead of trying to crush it. For centuries, the rulers of Zyphora had relied on power and rules, but Ethan was showing that courage, understanding, and communication could achieve more. The victory at the energy hub did not end the extremists' plotting. In the following days, they launched coordinated disruptions in several districts, cutting off energy to residential areas and creating panic in public transportation. Citizens grew anxious, and some blamed Ethan for the instability. The council, divided and wary, questioned every decision he made. Ethan remained focused. He met with the council in a large chamber, projecting maps and systems in holographic displays. "These disruptions are not random," he explained. "They are coordinated. Someone is trying to make the city fail so that you will lose trust in me. We need a new strategy, one that includes the citizens, the council, and anyone willing to help. If we work together, we can stop them and restore safety." Some council members were skeptical, but others began to see the wisdom in his approach. Ethan invited community leaders from the districts to join discussions, creating a new type of council that combined human leadership, alien experience, and citizen input. The extremists were furious when they heard about this, seeing it as a threat to their control over the city's fear and distrust. Ethan also realized that he needed to act decisively. He organized teams to patrol the districts most at risk, ensuring that disruptions were detected and addressed quickly. He worked closely with engineers to strengthen communication networks, add backups to the energy grid, and create early warning systems. Each small success reinforced trust among citizens and council members alike. One night, as Ethan reviewed reports in the palace, a messenger arrived with urgent news. Extremists had sabotaged a water purification plant in one of the outer districts. Thousands of citizens were at risk of losing access to clean water. Ethan did not hesitate. He gathered a team of engineers, guards, and volunteers and set out immediately. The plant was quiet but tense. Pipes had been damaged, valves broken, and control systems disrupted. Panic was beginning to spread among workers. Ethan quickly assessed the situation and divided the team into groups. Some repaired the pipes, others restored the control systems, and a small team monitored safety for the workers. He moved calmly among them, offering guidance and reassurance. Hours passed. The team worked tirelessly, following Ethan's clear instructions and human intuition. By dawn, the water plant was fully operational again, and citizens could access clean water once more. Word of the successful repair spread quickly through the city. People praised Ethan's quick thinking, his courage, and his ability to organize a solution without panic or violence. Yet Ethan knew this victory was only temporary. The extremists were clever, determined, and willing to do anything to see him fail. He needed to find a way to unite moderate leaders who shared his vision, to create a force capable of defending the city and maintaining stability without resorting to fear or force. He called a meeting with the council and invited moderate citizens, engineers, and community leaders. The chamber buzzed with anticipation as he spoke. "We have seen the dangers of division," he said. "The extremists want chaos. They want us to fight each other. But we are stronger when we work together. I propose a new council, a hybrid leadership combining humans, aliens, and citizens from every district. We will share responsibility, plan together, and make decisions that benefit everyone." Some council members were shocked. This was unprecedented. Elder Corvin's face was tight with anger, but others leaned forward, intrigued. Citizens present nodded, recognizing the fairness in Ethan's proposal. Over the following weeks, the new hybrid council began to take shape. Meetings were held openly, and each district had representatives. Decisions were debated, solutions were tested, and citizens could witness their government in action. The city slowly adapted to this new system, and trust began to grow. Meanwhile, extremists grew more desperate. They attempted to sabotage the communication network again, this time spreading false messages of disasters in multiple districts. Panic surged through the city. Ethan, however, anticipated their move. He had prepared contingency plans and quickly identified the source of the disruption. Teams moved swiftly to restore the network, reassure citizens, and prevent chaos. By the time the day ended, the city was calm once more. Citizens began to realize that Ethan's leadership was reliable, thoughtful, and fair. His human perspective had introduced flexibility, creativity, and empathy, qualities that were lacking in centuries of traditional rule. Lyra observed all of this with admiration and quiet relief. She had taken a tremendous risk in giving a human the throne, but now she saw the fruits of that decision. Ethan was not perfect. He made mistakes. He sometimes struggled with Zyphora's complex systems. But his humanity allowed him to connect with people, to inspire hope, and to act decisively in moments of crisis. One evening, as the twin moons reflected on the palace towers, Ethan and Lyra walked through the gardens. The air was cool, fragrant with alien blooms, and the city below was quiet but alive with activity. "They are growing more organized," Lyra said. "The extremists." "You must be careful," Ethan nodded. "I know they will continue to challenge us, but I also know that fear cannot guide us. We have to show people that cooperation, understanding, and action are stronger than chaos. That is the only way we survive and thrive." Lyra smiled faintly. "You are teaching my people to see beyond fear, to act even when the outcome is uncertain. That is more than any ruler has done in centuries." Ethan shook his head. "I am not doing it alone. The citizens, the council, you all play a part. Leadership is not a solo act. It is about inspiring others, guiding them, and learning from them. That is what makes it strong." The following days were filled with challenges, but also with progress. Citizens became more confident in their ability to work with the new council. Streets once quiet with fear now buzzed with activity and debate. Schools ran smoothly, markets thrived, and energy and water systems stabilized. The city slowly regained its sense of rhythm, though the threat of extremists never fully disappeared. Ethan also began preparing for larger challenges. He trained teams to respond to sabotage, organized drills for citizens, and developed strategies to anticipate disruptions. He worked tirelessly, not for glory, but because he believed in the people of Zyphora and in the potential of his human perspective. As Part 3 drew to a close, the city of Zyphora stood at another crossroads. Extremists lurked in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike, while citizens and moderate leaders grew stronger, united by the vision of a new, cooperative leadership. Ethan had proven that humans could not only survive in an alien world, but also inspire hope, foster cooperation, and solve problems in ways that no one else had imagined. The battle for the city's heart and mind had only begun, but for the first time, there was a real chance for unity and progress. Ethan, fragile in appearance but strong in mind and heart, was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The storm of rebellion was rising, but so was the light of change. Zyphora would not be the same again. The city of Zyphora had never been quieter and more tense at the same time. For weeks, the extremists had been planning their final strike, hoping to overthrow the human ruler who had defied tradition and unsettled centuries of control. Citizens moved cautiously through the streets, aware of the unrest, but inspired by the progress that Ethan and the Hybrid Council had achieved. The city felt alive with change, yet danger lingered in every shadow. Ethan woke early that morning, his mind racing with plans and possibilities. He knew the extremists were preparing something big, something designed to create chaos and fear on a massive scale. Reports from informants and community leaders confirmed that attacks would target the city's energy, transport, and communication systems simultaneously. Failure was not an option. Lyra entered the room, her expression calm but resolute. "They are moving faster than we expected," she said. "We have to be ready." Ethan nodded. "We are ready," he replied. "Not because we can predict everything, but because we have prepared our people, our systems, and our minds. Chaos is coming, but it will not destroy us." By mid-morning, signs of disruption appeared. Transport ships slowed and veered off course, energy grids flickered in multiple districts, and communication channels carried confusing messages. Citizens panicked in small groups, unsure where to go or whom to trust. Ethan sprang into action. He activated the city's emergency protocols, coordinating teams across every district. Engineers restored energy grids, guards ensured public safety, and volunteers guided citizens through the chaos. He moved from command center to command center, checking progress, adjusting plans, and reassuring everyone. The extremists had underestimated the human mind. Ethan's preparation and human intuition allowed him to see patterns and connections that the aliens could not. While the extremists tried to multiply panic, he multiplied solutions, turning the chaos into organized resistance. In the outer districts, extremist forces attempted to sabotage water plants and transportation hubs simultaneously. Ethan sent rapid response teams to each location, guiding them with calm, clear instructions. Workers and citizens followed his lead, repairing damage and keeping people safe. Within hours, the city was stable again, though exhaustion weighed on everyone. Lyra joined him on the balcony of the palace, looking out over the city. She saw ships moving smoothly despite earlier disruptions, streets clearing and citizens helping each other. "You've done what no one thought possible," she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "We've done it together. I am not the ruler because I am human. I am the ruler because people are willing to trust, act, and cooperate. That is real strength." Even as the city stabilized, Ethan knew the extremists had one more plan, a direct strike on the palace itself. Their goal was not just chaos. They wanted to remove the source of leadership, the human who had defied centuries of tradition. The palace guards prepared for the attack, fortifying entrances and arranging defensive formations. Citizens were evacuated from vulnerable areas, and emergency systems were placed on maximum alert. Ethan walked among the defenders, offering guidance and encouragement. His presence calmed them. He did not command with fear, he inspired confidence. When the extremists arrived, they expected to meet chaos and panic. Instead, they found a city ready for them. Defense systems were operational, guards were alert and organized, and citizens were prepared to assist. The extremists launched their assault, attempting to infiltrate the palace, but every move they made was anticipated and countered. Ethan directed the response from the central command room, analyzing the extremists' movements and adapting strategies in real time. He noticed weaknesses in their coordination and exploited them, rerouting guards and resources to block critical paths. His human creativity and intuition allowed him to think differently, predicting attacks and solutions simultaneously. The battle outside was tense but controlled. Explosions and alarms echoed through the city, but casualties were minimal. Citizens watched in awe as their ruler moved with calm determination, organizing efforts, giving clear directions, and ensuring safety. It was not brute strength that saved Zyphora. It was human ingenuity, communication, and courage. Inside the palace, Lyra and her closest advisors coordinated with Ethan. They monitored the city, directed reinforcements, and maintained morale. Lyra could see that the city had changed, not because fear had been defeated, but because trust and cooperation had replaced it. Citizens were no longer waiting to be told what to do. They were acting, thinking, and supporting each other. Hours passed, and the extremists realized their plan had failed. Their forces were disorganized, their attacks anticipated, and their influence over the city diminished. They retreated to the shadows, planning yet again, but this time they knew the city would not be easy to shake. Ethan emerged from the command room, his expression calm but firm. He walked among the guards and citizens, speaking to them, thanking them, and encouraging them. "Today we faced chaos," he said, "but we did not let it control us. We worked together, and together we are stronger than fear. That is what makes us capable of building a better future." Lyra stood beside him, proud and relieved. "You have proven that humans can lead, not by force, but by understanding, by planning, and by inspiring. You have shown my people that strength comes in many forms." In the following days, the city began to rebuild. Damage from the attacks was repaired quickly, thanks to the preparation and coordination Ethan had implemented. Citizens returned to their routines, but with a renewed sense of pride and responsibility. They had witnessed what leadership could achieve when it combined intelligence, empathy, and courage. The hybrid council became permanent. Humans, aliens, and citizens from every district worked together, sharing responsibilities and making decisions that reflected the needs of the entire city. This new system encouraged innovation, problem-solving, and cooperation in ways that had never existed before. Ethan continued to lead not as a dictator but as a guide. He listened to feedback, learned from mistakes, and encouraged others to take initiative. Citizens began to see the value in human ingenuity and compassion, realizing that even a fragile human could inspire change far beyond expectations. Lyra reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She remembered the council's initial outrage, the skepticism of citizens, and the constant plotting of extremists. She realized that the choice to give a human the throne had been risky, but it had been the right one. The city had survived chaos, learned to cooperate, and discovered new possibilities. The extremists, though weakened, were not gone. They remained in secret, plotting their return, but they could no longer control the city with fear alone. Citizens were prepared, systems were strengthened, and trust had replaced blind obedience. The storm of rebellion could rage, but it would never have the same power again. One evening, Ethan and Lyra walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool and fragrant with alien flowers, and the twin moons reflected on the crystal towers of the city. Citizens moved through the streets below, working, learning, and rebuilding. "We did it," Lyra said softly. "The city survived. It has changed." Ethan shook his head, smiling faintly. "We did it together. I only led the way. Your people, the council, the citizens, they made this possible. Leadership is not about being strong alone. It's about helping others be strong too." Lyra nodded, understanding the truth in his words. "You have taught them to think, to trust, and to act. That is more valuable than any law or decree." In the following weeks, Sci-Fi thrived. Schools flourished, markets grew vibrant, and technology advanced under the guidance of the Hybrid Council. Citizens felt ownership of their city, contributing ideas, solutions, and creativity. Ethan's leadership had shown that humans could not only survive in an alien world, but could inspire it to grow stronger, smarter, and more united. Ethan remained humble, always aware of his human fragility. Yet it was his mind, empathy, and courage that had guided the city through its darkest hours. He continued to work tirelessly, building relationships, solving problems, and ensuring that Sci-Fi would never again be paralyzed by fear or tradition alone. The extremists, now weakened and exposed, had little influence. They could still whisper in shadows, but their power was gone. Citizens no longer feared them, and their attempts at disruption were quickly neutralized by the preparedness Ethan had instilled in every district. Lyra looked out over the city one last time that evening, her heart full of hope. "This is a new era," she said softly. "A city led by cooperation, courage, and understanding. A city where humans and aliens can work together, learn from each other, and thrive." Ethan placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "It is only the beginning," he said. "Challenges will come and we will face them, but now we know that even in chaos there is a way forward. We can lead with our minds, hearts, and courage, and the city will follow." The twin moons shone brightly above Sci-Fi, reflecting on the crystal towers and streets filled with life, hope, and determination. The city had survived the storm, learned to unite, and discovered the strength in diversity. Humanity had proven its value, not through power or dominance, but through creativity, empathy, and unwavering courage. Zyphora would never be the same again. A fragile human had stood at its heart, guiding, inspiring, and building a future where chaos could be met with hope, fear with courage, and division with unity. The city, once divided and uncertain, now stood as a symbol of possibility, a place where differences were celebrated, minds were free, and leadership was measured not by strength alone, but by the ability to make life better for everyone. And so the story of Zyphora came to a close, not with destruction, but with hope. The princess had given the throne to a human, and through chaos, the city had found a new path forward. A path that would guide generations to come, proving that even the most fragile among us can change the course of history. The princess gave a human the throne, and chaos followed,